Hey everybody, how's it going? Get me out here, and welcome to my set of Theorycraft videos for Darkmoon Faire. So we're trying something a little bit new this expansion. We're going to be doing 2 classes per video to save myself and you guys just a little bit of time. So what you guys can do is down in the description, or there's little chapters here on YouTube, you guys can go ahead and skip to whatever class you're interested in. For each of these classes, each class will have 4 decks, so at least 2 meta and at least 2 off-meta decks that each use at least 1 new card. So that way everybody has a little bit of something, right? Regardless of how you play this game, what rank you play this game, what classes you enjoy, what archetypes you enjoy, there's a little bit of something for everybody. If you guys want to check out any of these gameplay live, so if you guys want to check out any of the gameplay of these decks that I'm talking about tonight live, make sure you guys head on over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/getmeout, and drop a follow so that you guys know when I go live, so that you can watch me play and refine any of these deck lists once the expansion drops. If you guys are looking for any refined deck lists as we move through the first couple of weeks of the expansion, make sure you guys join my Discord or follow me over on Twitter, or I'll be posting any of the lists once I'm happy with them for every class and any deck that I play. And if you guys miss any of that, gameplay highlights will be uploaded to YouTube, pretty frequently for the next month or two. So make sure you guys drop a sub here if you guys enjoy my content. For each of these videos, if you guys are looking for deck lists, make sure you guys check the description down below, where you will find links to a spreadsheet and all the codes for the specific decks and classes that we talk about. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you guys leave a like and head down to the comments to let me know what you guys think about my list and what you guys might be trying out once the expansion drops. I hope you guys enjoy, and with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Rogue and Shaman. So the 2 meta decks that we're going to be talking about for Rogue are not decks that you might think are meta, just because I don't think stuff like Odd Rogue and Kingsbane are getting huge buffs. But the first one we'll talk about is Aggro Rogue. So this is kind of one that I stole from Corbett, so I'm going to make sure I give him credit. But essentially what this is doing is cheating out a bunch of stats with Foxy Fraud, cheating a bunch of mana in the early game, and then Swindle drawing you a ton of cards, and then hitting... Dude, the Foxy Fraud activates Scimitar. You can Scimitar somebody on turn 2, turn 3, and hit him in the face for a ton of damage, and then kill him with some Leroys. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this Aggro Rogue. I think the Scimitar Foxy Fraud package is just kind of nutty and really good, and I'm excited to see kind of, can this deck cement itself as a real one alongside Odd and Kingsbane. I'm sure Foxy Fraud could find its way into Kingsbane as well, but it's just not something that I've explored or I'm super excited to try. The other meta deck that I want to try out is Galak Rogue, and so you might be like, Galak Rogue meta, but like it's fringe playable. It's a really strong deck in Standard, and it's close-ish in Wild, I think. But kind of the new big inclusions, you got Prize Plunder, you got Foxy Frauds like we were talking about, you got Swindle, you got Tenwu. These are all the new early game cards that help you cheat mana, help you control the board in the early game. I really like Galak Rogue, and it's so close to being viable in the format. I really hope that they unnerf Galak when it rotates. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm going to try it out. Prize Plunder being a pirate is some pretty cute synergy in the early game. I think Tenwu itself is not very good, so if you don't have it, don't go out of your way to craft it. It might be really, really strong in Standard, but I don't think it really has a home in Wild. Basically here in this deck, you're using it to kind of bounce your Prize Plunders, bounce your Foxy Frauds, bounce your Edwins, bounce your Evil Miscreants, bounce your Minstrels, just draw basically. But I am pretty hyped about Galak Rogue just because it's getting a lot of new tools to help it smooth out its early game, which has kind of been the roughest part about Galak Rogue. And as you're going to see moving into a lot of our other Rogue decks, this Galak Shell sets up for some pretty awesome stuff. But before we get into those other Galak shells, we got to talk about Grand Empress Shek'Zara. And we're going to do her. I know there's a lot of combos that you can potentially pull off with her, Moga Cultist, all that kind of good stuff. All I want to do with her is bounce some bunnies. We're playing some Pogo Rogue. Again, as you can tell, super low to the ground outside of Shek'Zara. Ziliax is in the deck, obviously, because Lifesteal Rush on a giant Pogo to save us. But the rest of the deck is Voracious Reader and a bunch of cheap stuff. We've got Mad Scientist to pull Cheat Death, to bounce our Pogos, and Dirty Tricks to draw some more cards. Yeah, I mean, this is Pogo Rogue. I'm super excited for it. If Pogo Rogue can be a viable deck, I don't know what that means for our format. But I have high hopes for the bunnies. I want them to be like a tier 5 deck, right? That I can play, and I can beat some people with some bunnies, and feel really, really good about myself. The next rogue deck that we're going to talk about is Cthulhu Rogue. So again, using the very similar Galakron shell to like the normal Galakron tempo list. I think the big difference here is we're running Wand Thieves for a little bit more stall. I think that honestly they could probably be prize plunderers as well if you want to try out some of the new cards. But Foxy Fraud Swindle, drawing through your deck, stalling the early game, smoothing it out, and then Cthulhu, cheating, either cheapening the spells or cheapening the Cthulhu itself, giving Galakron Rogue some sort of win con in Wild, which might be what it's really missing. And so we'll see. And plus, I just want to run Cthulhu in as many decks as possible. This is definitely worse than the tempo Galakron Rogue, but you get to run Cthulhu, so who's actually winning? Which one's actually the better deck? Sorry if you can hear my dog chewing her bone in the background. But the next rogue deck that we're going to talk about, again, using this Galakron shell, is Shuffle Rogue. So this is I played a very similar deck last year called Candle Rogue. Basically the same concept. Shuffle Striders, shuffle Candles into your deck, and you're going to shuffle Spooky Bears with the Ticketmaster into your deck, and then draw them with Stowaway and Shexara for some pretty insane high tempo plays. Turns 4, turns 5, turns 6. So in the early game, we're kind of trying to smooth out the rough early game with Foxy and Seal Fates and all that kind of good stuff as well. And then Broomsticks are in the deck, so once you have the big swing of turn, you play the Stowaway, summon 2 4/4s, draw 2 cards, then you can play the animated Broomstick to help you recover board, which is something that Rogue kind of really struggles with in Wild anyways, and so Broomstick might low-key be one of the better cards in this list. You might have seen the shell before, right? But the win con of this Galakron Rogue is all about the good old Skulker with the Spirit of the Shark and Shadow Steps, and Spectral Pillaging your opponents for about 60 damage. This deck, if you guys haven't played it before, is a ton of fun, and I'm excited with some of the new cards to help smooth out the early game and draw out a bunch of cards, and hopefully be more competitive moving forward. Okay, moving into Shaman. Shaman really only got like 2 or 3 cards, but they're pretty strong cards. So the first one we're going to talk about is Evolve Shaman. So Evolve Shaman getting Revolve as a pseudo-evolve effect, as well as the Devolve. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility, and it's a strong card on its own. And then you have Cage Match Custodian. This is the big reason that we're excited about this card, is that it tutors your Bogspine Knuckles. Bogspine Knuckles being one of the better cards in the deck, and it's really, really bad when you don't draw them in this kind of version of the list. And so this allows you to set up your Doppelgangster turns or follow up your Desert Hares very, very efficiently, very, very effectively. And then our draw package is we're running the Spirit of the Frog with Lightning Blooms, Evolves, all that kind of good stuff. The draw package in this feels a little bit awkward. And I mention that because all of your 1-drops now evolve your Spirit of the Frogs. You don't really get the huge pop-off turns that you could before. But it's the best options we have still in Evolve Shaman, so you definitely need to be playing it. And maybe mess around with the spells. But Cage Match Custodian, very, very good card. Revolve, very, very good card. Evolve Shaman getting a little bit better, maybe being competitive. Yeah, I'm excited. And then we have Even Shaman. Okay, this is basically the same exact Even Shaman, but the only difference is literally 1 copy of Cage Match Custodian. But I just did want to put this out there because I think if you're queuing into a ton of aggro druids, queuing into a ton of odd paladins, and you want to bully them, you really want to punish them for playing aggro on day 1, you play a good anti-aggro deck. And that's Even Shaman. But the real reason we want Cage Match is so that we can Splitting Axe on turn 4. Again, kind of the big power plays with this deck is a bunch of totems into Splitting Axe, Totemic Might, Totemic Surge, blowout turns. And the Cage Match Custodian makes this a little bit more consistent. So let's talk about the other side of the coin. Let's talk about some odd Shaman. Stuff like Inara and Stormstrike were really, really intriguing to me as kind of the top end finisher for this odd Shaman build. So odd Shaman really plays like Aggro Shaman nowadays. And Inara really reminded me of Doomhammer. It's pretty much the same exact text, right? +2 attack and Wind Fury. And so in this list, we're running the Inara and the Double Doomhammer. Double Doomhammer is probably too much, but trying it out. In addition to the new card Storm Strikes, this is a 3-mana, deal 3 to a minion, give your hero +3 attacks. So combined with Doomhammer and Inara, gives you kind of Pyroblast, which is insane. Odd Shaman was a very, very good deck. Pretty slept on, but it plays like Aggro Shaman, and so it punishes stuff like Dark Glare Warlock and Key Blocks. And so if you're really, really annoyed at playing those, maybe you bust up the Odd Shaman. Shoutouts to Anura who and Blue Train who kind of piloted this deck back in Ashes of Outland. But yeah, this deck's pretty good. I'm going to be trying out Inara and Doomhammer and Stormstrike just to see if it gives a little bit more finishing power than it used to have. I used to be running stuff like 1 copy of Bloodlust and some Molten Blast, or Elemental Blast, whatever they're called, the 3 mana make the elementals, but those weren't very good. And so maybe the Doomhammers and Inaras and the Stormstrikes are the kind of the finishing power that this deck needs. And then another deck I played a ton of that I really enjoyed was kind of some mid-range Totem Shaman, especially post-Totem Goliath buff. So yeah, the only new addition to this deck, we've got Cage Match Custodians again to give us our Splitting Axe, just like we talked about in Even Shaman. But the other big inclusion is the brand new Legendary Totem, Grand Totem Eyesore. So we only have 6 totems in the deck, but the goal is to be putting a bunch of totems onto the board via Totem Goliath and our hero power, and making sure they stay there with Totemic Reflection, Storm's Wrath, Totemic Mites, Totemic Surges, all that kind of good stuff. So the Eyesore should be getting a ton of value, should be very good in this deck, and I'm excited. I'm a fan. This deck was a ton of fun to play. It just struggled into Priest, which is why it kind of fell off the face of the earth, but it was a very strong deck, and I'm excited to play a ton more of it. I'm really hype, and mainly, maybe it's just because of Grand Totem Eyesore. Who am I kidding? It's absolutely because of Grand Totem Eyesore. Legendary Totem's pretty cool. Definitely going to be messing around with it. And then the next one's kind of an old-fashioned deck that we haven't seen in a while, but busting out the Murloc Shaman. Just basically the only reason we're busting this one back out of the toolbox is to mess with the Magic Fin. This is a new 3-mana Murloc, 3-mana 3/4. After a friendly minion dies, add a random legendary to your hand. So this gives you a little bit of gas when your opponents are trying to clear the board, or if you can stick a board, line up some favorable trades, and get some more resources with random legendaries. Random legendaries aren't that great, but it's a fun card, and legendaries are fun things to play with. So I'm planning on messing around with some Murloc Shaman. I don't expect Magic Fin to actually make the deck miraculously good, but if you'll enjoy playing some Murlocs, check out some Murloc Shaman. The next Shaman deck that we're going to be talking about is also me revisiting one of my pet decks that I'm trying to finally make good in this format, and that's kind of the Jade Shudderwock Shaman. So the big inclusions here are the Jade Claws with the Cage Match Custodians. Stop me if you've heard me this before. Cage Match Custodian being a good card because it tutors the powerful weapons. And because we have consistent ways to find Jade Claws now, we can put in the Rummaging Kobold. The Jade Claws are the best Jade activators in this deck by a long shot. And yeah, that's pretty much the only new card. And so yeah, that is the only new card, but it makes the deck a lot more consistent, and by making the deck more consistent, I'm excited to mess around with some Jade Shaman, and maybe stuff like Polkelt or Dunk Tank if we want to slow it down a little bit, eventually slot into this list, but currently this is the build that I'm going to take to ladder first. And last but not least, again, we gotta try out some old gods. We're going to be playing Charge the Defiler, so this is a combo that was kind of discovered in Standard during Theorycrafting that I kind of want to pivot over into Wild, because we have better cards. But basically the combo here is you corrupt your Dunk Tanks and you corrupt your Circus Medics, both of which can hit the opponent's face. And then you set up your quest with Tour Guide, and then you double your charge, right, which gives you all these 0-mana corrupt cards that, since you have activated your hero power, are ultimately going to end up dealing, I think, 32 damage to your opponent's face. So a little bit of a slow, gimmicky combo deck in their format, but it involves a new old god, so you have to at least try it, right? If you open your charge before you dust them. But yeah, so this is Yashara the Defiler OTK combo Shaman. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the Shaman and Rogue Theorycrafts. Again, I feel like a lot of the Theorycrafts use the same 2 or 3 cards, but they are pretty powerful 2 or 3 cards for both classes, and I'm excited to mess around with them and see if they help better the class. These are 2 classes that are kind of underplayed in our format, and so if any of these end up being really good or becoming super popular, I'll be excited, and I'll consider that a success. I hope you guys enjoy these lists. Let me know down in the comments below what decks you guys are playing or what cards you guys are going to be messing around with for these 2 classes. And I hope you guys enjoyed Darkmoon Faire. Enjoy playing with the new decks. Sorry for my dog showing her bone in the background, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.